Hello everyone, my name is Austin Darnell. I am a junior business administration major. Uh, Fun fact about me is I'm from Bancroft, Nebraska. It's a very small town of about 500 people located in northeast Nebraska. Another thing about me is I have one younger brother. He is a sophomore in high school right now, and he also plans on coming up here to the university. Another thing is my father owns a construction company. And with this construction company, that's kind of where my career goals are leaning towards. I do plan to live up here in Lincoln, though. After graduation, I plan on getting an internship this year or next year, hopefully within marketing or finance or something. And then after graduation, acquiring a job and working up here for 5 to 6 years. And then after that, I'll probably end up going back home to take over the family business. And with taking over the family business, learning agility would definitely play a key part in that. I mean, like it said in the book, management styles are always changing. And I feel like if I can change with them and make sure that my employees are going to be the most effective that they can be, that's where learning agility will come into play. I mean, with the 5 aspects to learning agility, you have innovating, performing, reflecting, risking, and defending. And we'll go into a little bit more depth on what each one of those are and how I've kind of came to have some kind of relation with those. First, with innovation, it's all about challenging the status quo and experiment with new ideas. This is where I feel working, construction has played a big part in this for me, because there's a lot of times that you don't always have the perfect tool or perfect part to get the job done, but you can usually find something around the job site, that's going to work until you find the spot or the perfect part that's going to actually work. Um, and the thing with me is, if you're good with innovation, you're going to be able to be a good motivational speaker, a good person, good at answering questions. Because if you can come up with questions on the spot like that, it's going to help you out a lot. Uh, Going down to performing, I'm going to come back more towards the school side of it, just because when I think of performing, the first thing that comes to my mind is thinking of grades. And I mean, I would say, doing good on tests and doing good in a class overall, it definitely shows yourself and also your peers that if you put your mind to something, you can get it done. And I think that part of this is how it's said in the book that you're supposed to look back to previous experiences and try to relate on how that can be done now or how changed now. And I think of studying for tests as the biggest thing. This also kind of relates to the reflecting side. When I think of how I should study for tests and how I did study for tests, um, reflecting for me, my biggest example would definitely be from my freshman year to now, where I'm at now. My first year as a freshman, things were a little different for me. I come from a small school where you had a lot more hands-on experience with each teacher. So coming here, and having a class of 200, 300 kids, you didn't have much one-on-one time with your teacher, and you really had to self-teach a lot of the stuff to yourself. So it made it a lot different. And this related mostly to studying methods for me. My studying methods were pretty poor when I first got here, so I didn't do very well my freshman year. But now I've really changed it up and found the better way to do a lot of the things. And I think that reflecting back on this, it's been a great help for me. Next thing is definitely risking. This is probably the biggest thing with the learning agility. I mean, if you're not willing to take risk, you're going to have a tough time, being able to advance in your field. And for me, risking was definitely coming to UNL. I mean, I came from a small school where I had 18 kids in my class, so, coming up here was a big difference. I also had the opportunity, if I wanted to, there was 2 smaller schools back home where I would have known more people, and, it would have been easier for me to study with, friends and such. But definitely coming up here, I definitely challenged myself more and took the risk. And I definitely think it's paid off more, as I think I'm getting a better education and I've met a lot of new people. So my network's definitely building. And then lastly comes down to defending. And defending can be a tough one because everyone wants to defend themselves. You don't want to have someone come in and challenge you and, take you out, but the best part about defending is if you allow someone to come in to help you, you'll definitely help yourself advance further, because they'll tell you what you did wrong or what you could do different in the future. So if you'll allow yourself to open up a little bit more, it'll definitely help you out. Now, relating to the video, I felt like there were a lot of times that the video related to learning agility. And with innovation, the one thing he said is when Google interviews their possible employees, they ask them questions about their cognitive ability. And I feel like if you're able to come up with good answers and quality answers on the spot, you're also going to be able to you're kind of an outside thinker, and I think innovation will play a big part in that. Next would be performance. I mean, when they talk about performance, Google always says setting the bar extremely high. And with setting the bar extremely high, Google's going to be a top performance, and they're just going to pull out great products from their company. And as he said, if you start averaging or hiring average people, your company is slowly just going to work its way down to just be an average company, which is not what Google wants. And Google's definitely been able to keep the bar extremely high and keep the performance up to the top. Next is reflecting. He talked about how most people don't actually go back and look at the data to show if someone, just because they were a good interviewee, just because they were good at the interview process, that doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to be a great worker. So if you can go back and look and see if someone's actually working good, were they good in the interview process, and vice versa. I mean, because just because you're good at interviews does not always mean you're going to be a good worker, so you don't want to have that in your company either. The last thing they talked about was the Google recruiter, their best recruiter, they said. And for me, a lot of it, he had to do with coming down to two things. The first thing being purpose. He seemed like he always wanted to make sure when you were working at Google, you had a purpose. And then also he seemed to talk about risk, which was the biggest thing to me. And when he talked about risk, he said, pushing the boundaries to do stuff that people had never done before. And I mean, if you're willing to risk your job, to quit your job and risk to go to Google to try to do something that never's done before, you're definitely going to advance yourself more so, into the future. And then coming down to the last question on there, which was something I feel like I need to work on, my biggest thing would definitely be public speaking. I'm not very good, I'm not the innovative guy that's going to go up there and, have a great speech and stuff like that. But public speaking also comes down to the production side of it. I could have, a great set of lines, or a great speech set up for me to say. And if I can nail that, my production side, people are going to look at it, it went good. But I also have to have that, the other side of it where I can answer the questions, and come up with all these different answers at the same time. So that's where I feel like I need to work on, and I think it would be great if I can get that done.